Let's spend a few minutes talking about blending. Now, blending is when you mix paint on the canvas. So you blend yellow in the blue, and you get a third color, which is green. Now, green serves as a transition between yellow and blue. So now we have color A and B. And after we build up the paint and blend them together, we get color C. Now C transitions color A into color B. When we're blending the skin, we blend across the shape and not with the shape. When we blend with the shape, we get a really clean blend. But when we blend across the shape, we get a really diffused blend, which is more like skin tone. Here's an example. Notice that I could have went in and blended the colors vertically, going up and down. Instead, I blend across the two colors, going left to right. This is how we handle blending the skin for the most part. Here's another example. We go in and add a fresh layer of paint. And now we blend. Notice how we're not following the shape of the forehead, but we're blending across it. In this next example, we're following the shape of the hairline. Now you see me blending following that shape. See how it creates a nice clean blend? It looks good, but the skin would look plastic if we painted it like this. Now, I don't want you to overblend. Sometimes we have the tendency to overdo it. Here's some scenarios where we might do too much. Let's say we wiped off the brush and we're going to blend. Well, if there isn't enough paint on the canvas, our brush becomes like a mop, and we begin to lift paint off the canvas instead of blending. We avoid this by making sure we have enough paint on the canvas and we're using a light touch. And here's a second scenario. You're blending and the paint begins to dry. Now our brush becomes like a scraper and we lift layers of paint off the canvas. We avoid this by doing less. We won't get it done in one layer. It won't completely come together until the end. What you're going to have to do is, if you see the paint starts to dry, just stop and let it dry. You can always come back and paint another layer. When we begin to blend, we use somewhat thin paint. We do this because we're trying to figure out where we want all the shapes to be. And after we establish where we want the shapes to be, we use thicker paint. But thicker paint leaves brush strokes. So we go in with thinner paint to finish the blending process. Thin paint eliminates brush strokes. When we start blending the face, we use a larger brush. And it's only right because we have to cover more area. But when we're finishing, we use a smaller brush. The smaller brush combined with thinner paint eliminates brush strokes. The focus of this chapter is blending, but the eyes and the lips aren't ready to blend. We know that there's a few things that we have to do before we can start blending. The first is a number wash. The second is building up color. As far as the eyes and lips are concerned, we have to build up color. Only when the color is built up to our satisfaction do we begin to blend. The process is always the same. Because of this process, you always know where you are in the painting. You can just look at it and know what you need to do next, which is a really, really good thing because it's easy to get lost in a painting. It's the same process you're going to watch me use to paint the hair. All right, let's do a quick review. When blending the skin tone, I want you to blend across the shapes when you can. Some areas are really too small, but for the most part, when blending the skin tone, blend across the shapes. But when you're painting the hair, I want you to paint in the direction that the hair is flowing in. This gives the hair and the skin tone a different look. Also, when we begin to blend, we use somewhat thinner paint. Just add an extra drop of water to your paint. And after we find that we have everything where we want it to be, we use thicker paint. And after we've covered the canvas with thicker paint, we finish by using a smaller brush and thinner paint. All right, that's all I have for you now. Let's start painting.